Hi, everyone. It's Margaret Manning here. Welcome to 60 and Me. This is the place where women over 60 come to be inspired. My guest today is Pam Kruger. Pam is a financial and investing expert. She is a TV personality, a co-host of a show called PBS Money Track, and she's also an author. But most importantly, Pam has created a tool called Wealth Ramp, which connects fiduciary advisors with consumers. And she is a wealth of information when it comes to all things financial in your retirement age. So welcome, Pam.
Thanks, Margaret. Great to be back.
I love to talk with you because you're so action-orientated and practical in your advice, which is helpful for money discussions.
Well, I got into this business of financial advising, if you will, when I was 24. That was just
a couple of years ago.
Yeah. So, listening to especially women, especially at retirement age or beyond, talk about their biggest fears, talk about, what their questions are. After a while, and it doesn't matter how much money someone has or does not have, it's unbelievable, Margaret. The questions are always the same, and they tend to be so much less about money and math and finances and certainly the economy or the stock market, and tend to be much more about lifestyle and peace of mind.
Yes.
And that's what it's all about. So sometimes we just have to get out of our own way. And you're going to hear me say that again and again and again.
I love that comment. But here's the thing. Like you said, these questions keep reoccurring. And I've got one for you from our community that I know you've had a million times. And that is this sense that, your plan was to leave money for your children. You want to leave a legacy. You've worked hard all your life. You've been responsible, and you want to leave something for them so they can have a better life. And you realize it's not going to work. It's just not going to be possible. So what happens, and what can we do?
The best laid plans, right?
Yeah.
Women, we go through divorce. We go through losing a spouse. We go through just, by the time you're at that point where you're really thinking about this, because your kids are getting older and you really want what you thought you were going to be able to do when they were babies and just growing up. Or it might not even be that it's all about your kids or your grandkids. It might be that you want to leave a legacy to make the world a better place for a cause you want to support because you feel so passionate about that cause. Mm-hmm. So then you have to ask yourself, if you haven't been contributing, your whole adult life, to put that money aside somehow and earmark it for that cause or for that, then we come upon it and it happens before we know it. Mm-hmm. And what do you think happens next? Immediate judgment and guilt. Yeah. You immediately start saying to yourself, I wanted this expectation of leaving, all of my children or my grandchildren X, Y, and Z, and it ain't happening. I can't make that work. Mm-hmm. So, you try to deal with that. And so many women, what they do, Margaret, is they'll take their own savings that they need, their own life preserver, their own jacket, if you will, the lifesaver jacket, and they will actually put themselves at risk. Yes. Because they think they're supposed to fulfill this that they promised themselves. Yeah. They didn't promise necessarily their kids and their grandkids, but they had it in their minds. So, the very first thing is to figure out, what is my legacy?
Yes.
Let's get real about it. What do I really want my legacy to be? My plan was to leave enough behind to help the kids and the grandkids and the family, or causes I feel passionate about. So, how can I plan at this point with so many unknowns that are going to impact my own life without removing my own life preserver, my own life jacket? Yes. So is there a better way that I can basically help the people in my life that I care about than just money? Mm-hmm. But first and foremost, looking at what is my legacy, and just basically on a whiteboard or a white piece of paper, just sitting down and just listing out, this is what I want my legacy to be for these reasons, and this is what I care most about. And that's kind of a calming exercise right there, because it helps you to sort of see either how far off you are or how close you are. And even if you're far off, it helps you to say, it's not realistic. And it gets you to that point psychologically where you can say, there has to come a point in time.
There's some calm about it. Pam, I just wanted to mention to you real briefly, because we've had a lot of conversations about this on 60andMe, on our, our forum, and when we write articles about this subject. And I think what's really interesting, what you've just said about defining legacy, is, we all, well, not we all, but many women in their 60s, their lives turned out nothing like they thought it would.
Right.
Honestly, your children didn't do the things that you thought they were going to do as adults. You had it all worked out when you're with the mom or even the aunt.
In your imagination.
Exactly. In your mind, you think everything. But in my life, I can say in my life, nothing has turned out exactly the way I thought it might. Yeah. But when I think about the legacy, of course I think about the financial side too, but I also think about the wisdom, the joy of just being with my family and reprioritizing things that I do to spend more time with them, just time, and the legacy will be in the memories of our fun together. It'll be in the making of memories together that will have more, what's the word, kind of more depth and more attachment to their little hearts.
That I couldn't agree with you more. Mm-hmm. And when you say it like that, doesn't it just make sense? It makes anyone want to stop and say, why am I stressing over this? You're so right. So there's two things. Let's cover the first one first, what you just said.
Okay.
Which is, let's redefine and recast and reframe the whole notion of I'm leaving a legacy. Take the money out of it.
Yeah.
The lessons that you can impart to the next generation, the volunteerism that you can do in your own community if you're physically able to do that, or even just being supportive, but being close to the kids, being listening to them. Remember, they want to remember you. They want to remember special things that only you taught them.
Yes.
They got from you. They could be lessons of the good, the bad, and the ugly of life. It could be about romance. It could be about money. It could be about what you had, what you didn't have. Yeah. But what I like about that is that it opens up the conversation to, instead of you holding it all inside and thinking this is a black and white situation where I have to give something at the point of my passing. No. Recast it. Give while you're alive of everything you can that will make a lasting memory for that child or that grandchild. And that opens up the opportunity to have an open dialogue and a frank discussion about money with your own kids. Now, I'm going to come back to that in a minute if we have time.
Let me just say, can I interrupt for a sec? Yes. We've got a time lapse here, but all I want to say is that is the most important thing that I think you've just said there, that when you have a relationship that's trusting with the children or the adult, the grandkids, then you can teach them about the mistakes that you may have made with money. It really is so important to have, every generation be smarter and be more successful and happier than you want them to be happier than you. You want them to not make those mistakes. So I think that for me, I actually do view my legacy as partly to help them be wiser when it comes to money, and and to make better decisions and to understand consequences of spending and not saving. And that's a gift. Seriously.
And to let your 11-year-old granddaughter drive your car to the supermarket, because I'm kidding. That's what I had someone in my life who actually let me drive her car to the pharmacy.
No, well, there's certain lines that we don't want to cross for it, but no, you know what I mean.
What you just did was you made me remember a memory that makes me laugh my head off when I think about it. And you know what? Money comes and money goes. Those memories. Yeah. Oh my gosh, those memories are incredible. I just got a huge smile because I started laughing when I thought about that. Yeah, that's great. But I want to talk about something that is kind of related more to money, and
that's important though.
Yeah, another way to shift. Okay, the reframing and the recasting. So, on the airplane, when they say, okay, make sure that your oxygen mask is down first and then adjust your child, right?
Yes.
Why do they do that? Because if you're not alive, your child's not going to be alive, right?
Yeah.
Same thing with kids and grandkids. So you don't want to be a burden on your grandkids, excuse me, or your kids,
Yes.
right? That right there is a legacy in and of itself.
Yes.
You want to try, if you don't have to be relying financially on them. But if you are digging into your savings to think that you're going to live frugally and you're going to leave money behind, but then in the process you short yourself, then you forgot to put on your oxygen mask and your kids are going to wind up having to take care of you.
Exactly.
So planning for yourself first. You're going to live probably, God willing, in your 90s. We as women over 60, we're going to live that long. So with that in mind, just kind of getting that sense of I have to make my own life preserver last. I have to make my own life saver last, and then I can help my kids. And then as far as looking at other things, Margaret, consider other things that are assets that are so important in a person's life. I'm going to give you an example. When my mom died and she was 94, I knew that my siblings, I'm the youngest, and I was super close to both my parents. And I knew that they all wanted things, furniture, vases, silverware, a chandelier, a table, this or that, Chippendale chairs. I knew it. And so I said to my siblings, look, I knew when mom was going to pass, you guys all take what you want and what mom has discussed with you. That's the key. My mom took the time to talk to each of us about what would you like, what's important to you. And you wouldn't believe the sentimental value attached to a book or to something a set of books that were read to you as a child. So your kids and grandkids have things that are not necessarily even valuable. It might be jewelry, but it might be just, these are assets. And money kind of goes out the window because these are things that have an attachment to something that's of value to them. So discussing, this kind of circles back to what I was saying earlier, opening up the discussion now while you're alive to find out what's important to them, and you'll be shocked. You'll be so surprised at what's important and what isn't.
Yeah, I've already sensed that with my grandchildren and my children. I mean, there are some things that they know meant a lot to me, and that is what's valuable to them. Like you're saying, it's exactly this. It's the association of the connection that's really important. But I mean, there are certain things. Like I have a ring. I don't have any. I wear lots of necklaces. Everyone knows this, but I don't wear many rings. But I do have this one ring that I love, and I have a story behind it. And I've told it's just tourmaline, and it's got special significance where I bought it. And I've told people, my son about this, but my little grandson, every time I go over, he grabs this ring and he looks at it and and I say to him, Max, when when Bubba's not here, I'm going to give you this ring because and he's a little guy, so he doesn't have any clue what I'm saying. But in my heart, but the point was in my heart, I know I'm establishing a connection with him that's beyond the ring. It's just about you love something that represents me. That's my legacy to you.
How thoughtful is that? Yeah. And children and adult kids, it's all sentimental. It's all emotional. Totally. I mean, when it comes to money and leaving money behind, the only people who can really leave money and real estate behind are people who can afford to. Totally. And, sometimes that's not such a good thing when you're really wealthy, Margaret, and you are going to be stressed out about, my kids, they'll work it out later amongst themselves. No, they won't. You might be leaving a negative legacy by leaving a bunch of stuff and not having the conversation with them. Yeah. The big family fight has to happen while you're alive, because if it doesn't happen while you're alive and on this planet, it's going to happen amongst the kids. Yeah. And after you're gone, the emotions running high. You and I both know, all of us in this audience, we know somebody who's had that big family fight after the estate has been settled, and nobody's happy. Yeah. Everybody feels shorted. And sometimes it involves a lot of money. And instead of being grateful, those kids feel nothing but anger and resentment toward the parent or the grandparent.
That it wasn't resolved. Yeah.
It came as a surprise. So what we're talking about has very little to do with finances.
Yeah.
And it has everything to do with talking openly with your family and deciding what is your legacy. Is it financial or is it not? And taking care of yourself first. Put your oxygen mask on, then help your child or your grandchild.
This is such great advice. And in fact, I knew when we started this conversation, Pam, that, I introduced you as being an expert in finance and investing. I knew that we weren't going to go much down a discussion about money here because the guilt about not having the money, the emotions that we've just talked about, that's really what this conversation is all about. And, I would say to people that are watching, if you have got, possessions that you want to share with your children and that there's going to be some conversation, do what Pam suggests. And I would, get in touch with her too on her website, wealthramp.com. And maybe there's a point to involve a fiduciary financial advisor, someone that's not going to sell you anything. He's going to just sell you his time at a set fee and give you the best advice he can. Or
Margaret,
she can.
Let me make one comment on that. Mm-hmm. Most of us don't know really truly what a financial advisor does. A real financial advisor, a real financial advisor or a real planner is someone who's in your life. And they're holistically helping you deal with all life's events, very awkward ones, very uncomfortable situations. They walk you through because they're really advisors and you're paying them to advise you and guide you. It's not just taxes. It's not just portfolio and investing.
Right.
It's really asking that question, okay, now I want to put it into practice. I want to help myself first to make sure I have enough money to last the rest of my life, and then have that decision about what could be left over. And if there isn't anything left over, they'll help you. And guess what? So many of the great advisors, real advisors, I mean, not salespeople, they will involve your kids and your grandkids in the conversation.
Yeah, it's a family conversation.
So involving an advisor who's an impartial person to educate about, here's what this is. Do you have questions?
Right.
It can be a game changer for your peace of mind. And that's what we're talking about.
Pam, I could go on talking to you on this topic forever. I mean, there's so many elements to it because money is just woven into every aspect of your life. But we're going to save a few topics for another conversation. And I want to remind people to go check out Pam's website, wealthramp.com, and, leave your questions in the section below too. This is a place where we can have a conversation, and Pam will check in. I know you check in when we put articles related to these videos. And let's have a discussion. But thanks so much for being here, Pam. It's such a pleasure to talk to you.
It's great talking to you. Thanks.
Okay. See you again.
You bet.
Bye. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our 60andMe YouTube channel and also visit our website. We are a strong and dynamic community of women over 60. We're challenging aging stereotypes, and every day we share fascinating stories, interesting questions, and great conversation.